Ellie from My Bubba, and I'm here today with Joanna Helckè.
Helckè?
Yeah, wanted to get that right. Who's a leading UK expert in pregnancy and postnatal fitness. So welcome to the sofa.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're one of our, I think, our third or fourth interview. So,
who have you had so far?
We've had an author, a couple of authors actually, and a vet who talked about choosing a puppy. So you're our first
brilliant.
fitness.
Oh well, I'm mad about puppies. We've got one. So.
Have you?
Yes,
What have you got?
A cockapoo. He's amazing.
Oh, I really want one
I've
of
left him
those.
behind today. But...
Oh, you should have brought him in. We could have had cuddles on the sofa. Cool. So we've got some questions for you. So exercising during the different trimesters, are there different exercises you should be doing or concentrating on for each?
It's a good question. It actually depends very much on the start point of each person. So instead, I can't sort of sit here today and go, right, if you're in your first trimester, everybody, you should all do this. Second trimester, you should all do that. It really is, it's so individual. So if somebody comes to their pregnancy and they've been really active pre-pregnancy, and then first trimester they're one of those lucky ones who didn't get any morning sickness, who just sails through everything and feels fine, then to a degree they can carry on doing what they were doing pre-pregnancy, but with a few caveats. So for example, if they were doing, I mean, you mentioned that you normally do kettlebell training.
Yes.
Now there are a few things that I would say, you know, potentially you would modify. One of them is in that first trimester, you don't want to be getting overly hot. So if you're using the kettlebells in a very cardiovascular way with the swinging, and if they're quite heavy, then you probably, I wouldn't say necessarily need to completely stop swinging a kettlebell, but you'd want to reduce the weight so that the overload wasn't quite as great. But not for you. Not, you know, obviously it depends on the individual again. So the same would be, for example, a marathon runner. Marathon runners usually don't get super hot because they're working at quite a steady pace because they've got to endure for a long time. So they need to listen to their body. So if the body's going, well, actually, you know, I don't want to be doing 2 hours on a Sunday, then reduce it. Listen to what your body. So it's about moderating things so that you don't get overly hot in the first trimester. For those who have felt pretty rotten and end up stopping for quite a long patch, what you can't really do is just then in second trimester suddenly re-emerge and go, oh, I don't feel sick anymore.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I wasn't allowed to exercise due to IVF, so they just said it's just not worth risking it. So I started probably at about 16, 17 weeks, just doing a couple of online DVDs that I've got. But I just think, well, how do you go? Can you make up for the first trimester missing out all of that time? Or like, how does that work?
So what you can't do is say, okay, well, I've lost X amount of fitness, I'm going to rebuild it right up to where I started pre-pregnancy. So what you can do is maintain the fitness levels that you have at the point when you restart. So you wouldn't go back to what you did pre-pregnancy because you have had a substantial gap. There hasn't been that continuity. So you start to look at things, and I don't mean sort of sit there, you know, because everyone kind of goes, okay, I'll do my pregnancy yoga, I'll do my pregnancy Pilates, and they're all good, but you know, they're not working, they're not particularly cardiovascular, they're not, there's a bit of resistance in there, but there's all sorts of other things you can do, but you maybe think of it in terms of what's functional. So you know, we walk a lot, that's part of life, walking. Functional moves like getting up and standing up, sitting down, those are squat movements. So all of that sort of stuff you can bring back in. So it's, yes, build it up again, think in terms of what is pregnancy friendly, because you've had that gap, and again keep it moderate. But there's a whole you know, people start to have quite a sort of narrow vision of what they can do. It's through worry, really. You know, people kind of go, oh, it's a bit like you were saying, I'm not sure, can't I, and then, oh, let's be on the safe side. But actually it's a lot wider than people think, just so long as they're fit, they're healthy, nothing changes, their healthcare practitioners say, yes, you're okay to do that, and they give you the green light.
And you should always check.
But it's moderation. And again, this is actually quite an important point, that you know the way with when you get sort of these videos that go viral about celebrity so and so. Oh, look what she's doing. Oh, she shouldn't be doing this. She shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
What you got to remember is that what is moderate for one person might be really easy for another person, or really hard for someone else.
Yeah.
So everyone's moderate
different.
is going to be different depending on what they bring to their pregnancy.
I found it quite hard motivating myself after having such a time not exercising. Have you got any tips to?
That's a really hard one.
It's always a hard question, isn't it?
You know what? I think that what's really the best option is to. I mean, I know you mentioned DVDs, and I do. Well, I do face-to-face stuff, but I also have my online stuff.
Yeah.
But it's connecting with other people who are expecting,
who
are in that state. Is this your first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just because I've been doing face-to-face stuff for years, and I think when it's your first pregnancy, it's very hard to realise quite how important that network of friendships is going to be postnatally, because you're not there yet. Your life is here, it's your job, and yes, it's exciting being pregnant, but things are going to change so much. So what I would say is the most motivating thing for you now would be to find local pregnancy fitness, whatever it is, that has social stuff which is sort of embedded and included in it.
So an incentive other than the exercise.
So that it becomes a weekly social event. You go there, you meet up, you exchange notes on, oh, well, I've had my scan and this and that and the other, how did it go? And everyone chats a little bit. And I mean, certainly where the stuff I do locally, I actually include meals out, events, I have brunches, I bring in people who are experts in other fields than mine, who come and give little workshops, and I sort of include it with a brunch out in a nice cafe, just to try and get those connections. And I think that's really, or the online equivalent would be, an online system. My one does this actually, and I've got a forum, and so people can connect, and I've got the closed Facebook group, so I'm trying to recreate that in an online world, just so that people don't feel, oh, it's
like last night I thought, oh, I should have done my exercises. Oh, it's Valentine's Day, we're going out in an hour, so I won't. And then I think, I'll make it up later in the week. And then I probably
I'm really busy, or I'm tired.
And then you start thinking, oh, I'm so behind now. And is it the case that if, so I've missed the first trimester, is there permanent, not damage, but things happening to your body that you won't be able to sort of afterwards sort out? Because that's my biggest worry. Is
don't worry,
I'm going to go from beyond being able to repair it type thing.
Really not. No, I mean, I always give the analogy of, it's like any let's take a bodybuilder. The bodybuilder builds up his or her muscles, gets really, really big and muscly. If they sort of then stand still and go, I look amazing, I'm going to stop now, it's going to reverse, and they'll lose their muscle tone and whatever. But it was reversible that way, but it's reversible the other way. They can then make it it up again and get just as fit and strong as before. So it's not lost. It's a hiatus, that's all. But if people can, I mean, the recommendations, it's the NHS recommendations are the same for pregnant people, 150 minutes a week if you can.
It is.
As it is for anybody else.
Wow. I didn't know that.
It is the same, and it's a mix of cardio, a mix of resistance. So it's very, very similar, but bringing it down to what is moderate for you.
And what you can cope with.
But don't forget that things like walking count. So walking to work would count towards that 150
I think I'm quite hard on myself, because most lunchtimes when I'm in town, I'll go walk for an hour, up to the shops and back.
Brilliant.
But then I don't really count that as
but it does exercise. It does count. It does count.
And so what sort of exercises should be avoided at all costs? Are there any? So the kettlebells, you said that you should reduce the size, perhaps.
So again, going back to kettlebells, which are really popular, and I love kettlebells as my boys. I've used them. I kind of came to them much sooner than other people, so I was teaching them before it became a big trend. there will be people who will be able to carry on using them right the way through pregnancy, and obviously you can choose not to swing them, and you can use them for a bicep curl, a shoulder press, a tricep extension. You can sit
down and do some things.
Yes,
can't you?
yeah, you can do a squat holding it close to you. None of that is going to be a problem. It's the equivalent of having a couple of dumbbells in your hands. Yeah. What the problem with the swinging is potentially the lower back. Everything's that little bit more mobile, not quite as stable as usual in pregnancy, and you're more prone to injury. So if somebody's technique isn't spot on, if they've they could tweak something. But in terms of what to avoid, absolutely, it's dangerous sports, you know, and competitive. I mean, you know, a lot of us are competitive, and if I'm put in a competitive situation, I will always do my best to outdo everyone. That's when injury can come in. A competitive person deciding to carry on playing netball
or rugby,
or whatever.
Out.
Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But then there are other things that I have. I live in a really horsey area. I'm not a horse fan, but anyway. And horse riding, to me, so I have quite a lot of people who come to me and who carry on horse riding for quite a long time, and then they pick it up postnatally really soon. To me, that's a no-no, because they might be the best horse rider in the world, but horses get spooked. And I've seen it happen by the most peculiar and banal things. So, you know, if you're knocked off your horse,
you can't account for that.
So first trimester they'd be all right, because even with dangerous sports, to a degree, in that when your baby is still hidden and tucked away in your pelvis, there's protection, there's that bony protection, but once your bump starts to show, there's no protection there.
It's just common sense, really, isn't it?
So you're not going to go skiing. I would definitely say. Contact sports.
It's that time of year for skiing too, isn't it?
I know.
But exercise. So if you're someone who hasn't really done a lot, it's good to do like moderately, because it helps with pregnancy ailments and things, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's a hard one in that you can't. I think that, you know, when you work in fitness, it's a little bit, you're treading on a thin edge when you start to say, I can guarantee that. But, you know, the feedback, many people will tell you that the feedback is that the aches, the pains, the lower back ache, all that sort of stuff tends to ease off or be managed a lot better. So it might not be entirely gone. Pelvic pain, that again, if you do pregnancy specific exercises that cater for pelvic girdle pain, then it can potentially be.
I've not heard of that. What's pelvic girdle pain?
Okay, right. You might have heard of it as hopefully you won't get it. It's not nice. It's it used to be called SPD. It's people can get this really awful, and it can go from mild to off the scale debilitating. And it's like groin, it's pain in the groin and all the way round into the buttocks and like all of the pelvic area. It can have lots. Pelvic girdle pain is like an umbrella term. The classic one is when the two bones of your pelvis at the pubic area, at the pubis, where they join together, because everything's sort of more mobile, they start to separate out. So if you can imagine, if that's the pubic area, if it separates out to beyond 9 millimeters, that's, you've got a separation going on there. Everything is shifting around and it's excruciating. So there are lots of do's and don'ts when you have it. And as I say, some people end up literally in a wheelchair. Some people end up on crutches, walking, anything that's single-legged, because the pelvis is effectively separated out a little bit. You can imagine that every time you take a step, what's happening is it's exacerbating, so walking is out very often. Big stepping movements in and out of a car. So if you take one foot out, then the other foot out, that would be like ouch, ouch, you know, so you have to kind of like keep everything narrow together. So you can, like, people who specialise in pregnancy fitness should definitely have that ability to to basically modify and adapt everything for you if you have that condition, which you're not going to get.
No, I hope
it's not nice.
That sounds horrid. Talking
is,
about the pelvic floor exercises.
Oh yeah.
So they're a massive area, aren't they? Well, I've got the LV, which is a.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you recommend?
That's really that's really
it's
interesting.
Quite fun, but I don't know whether I'm doing enough.
Do you track everything? Do you download it and track it all onto your?
No, I haven't done that. I've just been.
Have you set it to the number of reps and?
It seems to measure what you do, and then the next time you go in, it sets it automatically. Unless I'm missing something. But
you know what? I'm gonna get one of those. I was on a course recently, so I go on quite a lot of courses just to sort of see what the latest research is, and the person presenting the course, Cherry Baker, she was talking about. Have you heard of her? Yes. She was talking about all these different sort of devices and stuff, and she actually said that was the best of the lot.
It's fun. It's like Mario. It's like a 3D or 2D or whatever game where you're just playing and hitting.
Yeah, her description of how excited she got when she received it was really quite amusing. Yeah, so I would recommend anything. I mean, you know, it's individual in that everyone's motivated by different things, and as you say, the fact that it's fun. I mean, you are actually the first person I've ever heard say that doing pelvic floor work is fun because it's boring.
Yeah, and
but
you
forget. And we forget. Yeah, so
the app does ping you, which is also good. It's like, have you done your LV today? Oops, no. So,
exactly. So I think anything that can help remind people, keep people on track. There's an NHS. Have you come across the NHS app?
No.
It's called Squeezy. So that's highly recommended as well. It's been really, really popular. I think it's Squeezy with a Y on the end.
Yeah.
And again, I have a lot of people who use it and who find it very effective. It's not the same in that obviously it's not a gadget. It's purely an app and a reminder system.
Yeah.
But it does keep reminding you, and it kind of accumulates. And
because it's just an exercise you don't really need to get dressed up and put your trainers on to do, so it's easy just to be forgetful. But that's definitely a good way of remembering to do it. But like me, I didn't realise that you should be doing them straight away when you get pregnant. I thought, I've got all the time in the world to give birth, and then I thought the actual process of giving birth was what wrecked your pelvic floor. I didn't realise it was pregnancy
a whole lot
itself. So I was like, oh no, already it's like, right, I need to do more.
So they need to be done consistently through pregnancy. And it's the very first exercise that you can start up postnatally, and I'm talking within hours.
Really,
And so people, if anyone has had any tearing, any stitches, episiotomy, C-section as well, pelvic floor work, actually it will promote the healing. So it will speed things up because it encourages the flow of blood to the pelvic area.
Right.
So it is actually that's quite a good motivator. The other thing is that it also, the pelvic floor muscles work in conjunction, they sort of coordinate with your deep abdominal muscles. So really you're to a degree working two really, really important muscles at the same time because they co-contract.
Right.
So the deep abdominals are like to get the tummy flat again postnatally. So
And if you don't do any pelvic floors, can you regain what you had before you were pregnant, or is there ever permanent damage that might be done, or does it really
obviously, you know, the birth does, you know, what kind of a birth you have. No, you know, for the majority, let's say for the majority of people, it's going to be fine.
It's all salvageable.
It is salvageable, but the main problem is that, you know, it's that compliance. You know, people forget, and it's kind of you know, postnatally you're suddenly on this incredibly steep learning curve, and then you become bottom of the pile. And it's trying to not fall into that trap of going, later, oh, I will do it tomorrow, you know. And actually going, well, actually no, it's important because postnatally it's going to be the foundations of your fitness. So anyone who wants to get, what I say to people, if you want to get fit and strong for life postnatally, you have to put in the work for those foundations. And the foundations are your pelvic floor muscles and the deep abdominals, because that's what keeps everything together. Literally, that core, if you can imagine, you've got your centre, you've got
Yeah.
all your internal organs, everything being held up by your pelvic floor. If that
Yeah.
gives up, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to run. You're not going to be able to do your high intensity interval training, anything with impact, you know. And then people then suddenly get to a point where they suddenly realise they're organising their fitness around their pelvic floor.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, you're fit, you're strong,
Yeah.
you're
Start
young,
there.
but you're not working to your full potential because you're having to organise it around your pelvic floor. How frustrating.
Yeah, no, that
So,
doesn't sound good.
One thing I was going to say about the pelvic floor, and I don't know whether the LV, you can tell me if it does this, is that particularly in the third trimester onwards, you need to learn to relax your pelvic floor as well.
Yeah,
Does
it
it
does
tell you
have,
that?
it says lift and relax, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of like relax, I just stop lifting. So
Yeah, so there's more to it than that. I'd say that you've got the, I always sort of describe it in sort of like ground floor is your relaxed, okay, let's say we're on ground floor now.
Yeah.
And then when the LV, well, you know, when you do your pelvic floor pull up, you know, you're lifting up away from that ground floor, so you're going to the first floor, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So you're up there, and then when your LV or whatever system you're using tells you to relax, you're going back to the ground floor.
Yeah.
But we need in the third trimester to learn to go into the basement as
Oh,
well.
wow, okay.
Yeah. So it's important to be able to go into the basement because obviously when you give birth, that's what you've got to be able to do.
So you don't want to be on the first floor giving birth, or not going to happen.
It's no, and that's when and so you do have, and it's really quite common what people call a hypertonic pelvic floor, which in other words, it's like the muscles are always under tension, they can't relax, and they can't just totally relax, and that's really important. And I've noticed that not many people actually are aware of that, so I always go through that in class.
Right. Okay, so that's
remember
one
that
to remember. Making mental notes.
Yeah,
in
so
my
you have
head.
to go down, so it's a bearing downwards, that's what it feels like. Yeah, so it's a kind of ground floor, lift up is your pelvic floor, pull up, back down to ground floor, bear downwards.
Bear down,
That's
okay.
like pushing, which is what you're going to be doing when you give birth.
And with C-sections and emergency C-sections, because my mum always said, I had 3 emergency C-sections, my abs I could never tone my stomach up after. Was she fibbing there a little bit, or is there damage that can be done when they just...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people get numbness, and and some people it never ever comes back, and it's a great big patch. And I think that must be quite difficult because ultimately it's that neural pathway, isn't it, between your head and the muscle, and it must be quite hard if you can't feel what's going on. So I think I'm sure she's not fibbing. What I do, I mean, I've been really lucky. I've had 3 boys and I've not had any C-sections, so I've not actually experienced it, but different people will have a C-section done in a different way depending on how strong their abdominals are. I investigated this with some people who work in the NHS because I kept getting some people who were coming to me and going, well, they've cut through my muscles, and then other people said, no, but they haven't cut through my muscles. And in the end I thought, well, I want to sort of find out a bit about this, and it would appear that depending on how strong your muscles are when you come to have a C-section, they will sort of delve into you slightly differently. And in some cases they're able to, your muscle tone, and in some cases they would actually move the muscle out of the way, and in other cases they might cut through the muscle.
If it's an emergency, they're just not going to spend a lot of time.
I mean, I don't know, but they will do the path of least resistance, I presume. But I think the one thing that a lot of people say post C-section is that even when they've basically lost the baby weight, they always the word they use is overhang. I always hear this. It's always, I've got the scar.
Horrible.
It is a really, but that's the kind of like, and I'm sure a lot of people will sort of like, that'll ring a bell when I say that. And what they complain about is that they've got the scar, which is quite low down. They've really lost all the baby weight, but they have this kind of like little overhang of fat, and yet they're not fat. So they're kind of like slender everywhere, and on their stomach, but there's this bulge over which is really bothering them. And they keep, and I get asked all the time, what can I do about it? And the problem is that it's the scar tissue is sort of pushing inwards. So it means that whatever fat we all have, we have to have fat, you know, and especially as women, we need a certain percentage of fat to actually be healthy and to be able to reproduce. So if people were going to actually try and get rid of that overhang, you're talking going down to body fat percentages that would be actually unhealthy.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking
and
into
you're not
single
going to be
figures.
happy doing that, are you? With when your body fat's so low.
No.
You're just getting miserable. Yeah. So sometimes you've just got to accept your war wounds.
I think that side of things, yeah. I think you've got to be realistic. You know that we need body fat. We've got it there. Even if you take it to a very low percentage, you're still going to have that little. It's just because the scar is sort of pushing inwards and it's emphasising everything else.
And it's probably, I don't know about you, but I think with our own bodies we're aware and notice things a lot more than other people would even take a second glance at, which is a lot of the problems with the body image. So there's so much to talk about. So have you got any 3 general top tips for women that have just found out they're pregnant to do exercise wise? Is there any 3 general things you would advise?
I would advise that if they're worried about whether they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, that in terms of exercise, and that's kind of halting them, I would advise that they go and find somebody who specialises in pre and postnatal fitness, whose qualification is in that, because then they can basically go there and be rest assured that it is something safe that they're doing. There's an organisation which it's a not-for-profit organisation. It's called the Guild of Pregnancy and Postnatal Exercise Instructors, and I'm actually the co-chair at the moment. And it basically, all the members are fully qualified. People can input their postcode and find an instructor in their area.
A great place to start.
Yeah, so that at least, you know, they're also, all the members have to keep updated with research. So every year they have to attend new courses. They can't sort of have done a course 10 years ago and then go, oh, it's all right, I've done it now.
Yeah.
So they've got to keep on top of things.
That's good to know.
So I think that's one tip. The other one is moderation. So I would say don't compare yourself. Don't look around and compare yourself to everyone else. If you know that you mustn't overheat, which is a key thing that you mustn't do in early pregnancy, whether it be lying in a sauna, you won't want to be doing that, or lying on a very hot beach, or vigorous exercise, or whether it be basically you work within your capacity.
Yeah.
And what is moderate for you, and not the person next door to you.
Yeah.
So that would be my second one. The third one is start your pelvic floor exercises.
Do them now.
Yes, and just find a system that works for you. And keep going.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. And remember to relax them as well.
Yes, basement. We're all about the basement. It sounds like the nicest part as well. Is it?
It's slightly peculiar.
Yeah, is it?
There's slightly where some people don't like it much.
Oh right, okay. Well, I'll just give that one a go. So, and tell us about your Fit Bump box and your Fit Bump band exercises. So these are the books that you get.
Yes, I haven't got a box with me, but basically it's a sort of my pregnancy fitness kit in a kit. So you get a little box. It's very pretty. It's designed to be completely unscary. So it's kind of the opposite end of boot camp.
Yeah, sounds good.
And inside it's got the little pieces of equipment that I find truly helpful and have been using for many years, and many other people do as well. So one of them is a resistance band. They're flexible, pun. No, but they are incredibly versatile as a piece of equipment, and I use them for all the kind of things that you need to keep strong in pregnancy. Posture is really, really important, because our posture shifts not in the best of ways. Well, you know, if we can keep our posture strong, we're less likely to have back pain. For starters, and a little physio ball, which is a really little ball, but it's just helps you get sort of get to those tight areas in your body, excuse me, which you wouldn't be able to necessarily get without the physio ball. It's called a physio ball because physiotherapists use it. So again, it's a really sort of useful little piece of equipment. And then I have little booklets in here. One of them,
great.
So this one here is really to help people look at the exercises that they used to do, the forms of fitness that they used to do pre-pregnancy, and actually show them whether it's safe,
and
whether it can be adapted, and if so, how to adapt it, and if you really can't adapt it, because some things just genuinely are not right for pregnancy, what you can do might be a viable or interesting alternative, because there's nothing more annoying than somebody turning around, no, you can't do that, full stop.
Yeah.
But how about, you can't do that, but how about giving this a go? You might, so, for example, with runners, if running isn't going to be great for them, because, for some people running just does not feel good at all in pregnancy.
Or ever.
Or never run. But anyway, aqua jogging might be quite a good alternative.
Yeah,
you're supported by, it's actually pretty good. You're sort of supported by the water, you've not got the impact on your pelvic floor or on the joints. So, so you've got that. Then there are a couple of little books to help you with the pieces of equipment as well. But really the key of the box is that you've got your online workouts. Yeah. So every box comes with a unique code. You just go over to the website, pop it in where it says put your unique code in. And it takes you, it's designed, I mean, you were saying you do online fitness.
Yeah.
I've done my best to make it as safe as possible, because obviously I'm dealing with a really special population group.
Yeah.
So I have a medical form that everyone has to jump through the hoop of filling in. Yeah. And it will pick up on things. So if somebody were to pick up on well, I've had bleeding in the first trimester, it would flag that up to me, even though it's an online form. And then that person would say, hang on, we're not letting you join yet, you need to get in touch with me. And then we can have a direct chat about it. Yeah, that's really good. So it is designed, and then postnatally and then it places you, because it asks you when your due date is, and it places you on the correct week of the program. So if you were, say, I don't know, 18 weeks pregnant, it would put you on week 18 of the program, and then every week it unlocks a new workout.
Sounds great. I'm definitely signing up to this. So what's the website?
It's fitbumpbox.com.
Oh, there you go, fitbumpbox.com.
Yeah, and then postnatally, you say, I've had my baby. It'll take you through the medical again, because obviously people's births are all different. Takes you through the medical, and then you say when your baby was born, and then it puts you on the correct, and it literally starts week 1 postpartum with all sorts of stuff that you can't normally do in a normal fitness class. But I do a lot of pelvic floor work, and I go through abdominal separation, how to test for it, how to breathing techniques, posture, all that sort of stuff. And then it builds up for 6 months postpartum.
Sounds brilliant. Yeah, excellent, cool.
So that's how it works.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Oh, that's a pleasure.
Great.
Lovely.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye bye.